All right, let's talk about the state of the D-backs because doing my little video yesterday for my Twitter Locked On Diamondbacks, I realized after I posted it that I said the D-backs had a game today. I knew that the D-backs had an off day today, but I don't know. I got confused with the schedule and I said the D-backs are playing today. So I look like an idiot online. So I'm sorry for that. But the D-backs did lose their game yesterday to the San Diego Padres. I'm sure all you guys know about that already. And I just want to talk about the state of the D-backs as we entered July. Because when you look at that game yesterday, it was kind of a microcosm of how the whole month of June went because the D-backs have really been struggling offensively, and we'll get more into the numbers as we go more into the segment. But yesterday, the D-backs, you just look at the top of the lineup because, like I said, microcosm for how this whole month of June went. The first four batters in the lineup, the 1 through 4 hitters, were 0 for on the day yesterday. All of them 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4. The top four hitters, they had 5 strikeouts. That's Rojas, Thomas, Marte, and Christian Walker. And they just had no run support from Madison Bumgarner, who I don't think was terrible yesterday. And we're not going to do the 3 moons or the 3 stars. We didn't do it yesterday. We won't do it today. Once we're back on our normal scheduled programming, when I record after the games, that's when I'll do the 3 moons or 3 stars. But I'm recording this on Thursday at 10:30 in the morning. It doesn't feel as prevalent to hand out those 3 stars or 3 moons right now. So we'll do that for the next game, probably next week. But the D-backs offensively did nothing. I didn't think Mad Bum was terrible, like I said yesterday. He did labor through. He had a little bit of command issues, but still only 1 earned run over 5 innings. You'll definitely take that from Mad Bum. Like, we're at the point now where when you think of Mad Bum, those first 2 years in the D-backs uniform, you were happy if you went 4 innings and gave up 5 earned runs. Now we're like 5 innings, 1 earned run. That's not a great start for Madison Bumgarner. So it tells you how far he's come under Brent Strom and how much he's improved this season. And he was fine yesterday. Like I said, just labored 3 walks, 105 pitches, and only 5 innings. But the D-backs gave him no support offensively yesterday. And that has been a trend for this D-backs offense all month of June because the D-backs so far in the month of June, their record after this month, because like I said, they're not playing today at the time of you guys listening to this pod. The D-backs finished June with a 9-16 record, which has been their worst month so far this season. April, they were 10-12, a 45% winning percentage, right near 500. They were above 500 in May, 15-14, but this month of June, only 9-16, and their run scored only 105 runs scored this month compared to 127 runs allowed. The D-backs were just not good this month, both from an offensive and pitching perspective. And when you look at the D-backs offensive numbers in the month of June, they're very similar to what they did in that first month of April. Because in this month of June, D-backs as a team, with a team batting average of 206, a team OPS of 637. And when you look at the offensive numbers collectively, the numbers that stand out are those numbers in May. And now you have to wonder, is April and June really the real D-backs, the real identity of what this D-backs offense looks like? Because the May and June numbers, excuse me, the April and June numbers look very similar in terms of the overall slash line. But when you look at May, that seems to be the outlier. A 247 average in May as a team, a 753 OPS in May as a team with 39 home runs, way more than any other month so far. So maybe May is that outlier when it comes to offense. But even when you look at the pitching as well for this D backs team, in the month of June, the pitching wasn't good either. And when you look at it, when you try to compare the pitching to the offense, April seems to be the outlier when it comes to the D-backs pitching when you compare to all the months so far, because we know how good this D-backs pitching was to start the season. And it had to regress a little bit because there's no way they're going to keep up the sustainability that we saw when the season first started for the Merrill Kellys and even the Madison Bumgarners, who started off with like a 2.8 ERA those first few starts of the year. Like, the D-backs had just too many guys specifically in their rotation just way outperforming their expectations levels. And guys like Merrill Kelly, Mad Bum are still having good seasons, but nowhere near the level we first saw that first month of the year. Because in the month of April, the D-backs had a team rotation of 3.28, and it has slowly gotten worse since then. In May, it's 4.87 ERA. In June, it got slightly better, but still a 4.58 ERA in the month of June. And the WHIP was even worse than this month than it was last month. So the pitching has definitely regressed since that first month. And the offense, just hasn't been able to find their footing. So when you look at the pitching getting worse month by month and the offense not exactly getting better, it's hard to really expect this D-backs team to compete in a wild card race. And that's really the crux of this segment. Should we recalibrate? Maybe I took too long to get to my take. I know my producers at Locked On don't like that, but I think it's time to recalibrate our expectations with this D-back team as we enter the month of July, because I'm I was checking a lot those wild card race standings for my YouTube audience. Do my glasses look crooked on my face? You can let me know in the comment section. But I was, checking the wild card standings a lot, especially after that month of after the month of May. The D-backs were right there in the wild card race. They were pretty much right there neck and neck, the San Francisco Giants. And now, I mean, I haven't even pulled up the standings. We could pull them up real quick. But now, when you look at the standings, when you look at the wild card race, it just doesn't seem as feasible as I thought maybe 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, because the D-backs, they're 8 games back in the wild card race, which is still plausible, but with how the D-backs have looked pretty much the whole season as an offensive unit, you can't really buy this team as one that can make the postseason. Now, I still think they're going to be around those 70 win marks, like I said, around in the preseason. I still think they're going to hit around their Vegas totals. If the D-backs get to 72, 73 wins, I still think that's a major improvement this season. That's still around a 20 win improvement. I still shows great progression and development as a team. But even though your team record is better, you want to see it on the field as well. Like, the team record might improve by 20 wins, but do you think Dalton Varsho has improved dramatically? Do you think some of these other players, we've talked about the Luke Weavers and Carson Kelly, do you think you're getting the player development that you would want as the D-backs front office, as the D-backs manager? The answer to those questions might not be the answers you want, but there's still time for guys like Dalton Varsho to really pick it up, because last season, if you remember, he didn't really get going to the second half of the year. So guys like Dalton Varsho could still see a huge second half leap that will make this whole season in general more positive, because I think that's where we have to start going as D-backs fans. Stop looking at the wild card race standings and start just looking at player development, and just start monitoring the young guys, because I think the D-backs, as the season goes on, as we get closer to the trade deadline, I mean, these next 3 weeks are going to be important for the D-backs, because if they continue the trend that we saw in the month of June, they will be sellers at the deadline. At one point, it felt like the D-backs might be buyers because of how close they were to a 500 record, but if this trend continues, I think they will be sellers at the deadline. And who knows, guys like Zach Davies, Madison Bumgarner, Christian Walker, David Peralta, all those guys could potentially be on the move. And so it only creates more opportunity for young guys, more guys like Alec Thomas, even the Jake McCarthy's of the world. Who knows? Maybe we see, if we're super duper lucky, maybe we see a guy like Corbin Carroll called up, or at least maybe some of these pitchers who are 24 years old, like the Ryan Nelsons and the Drew Jamesons, get called up. So I think at this point of the year, yes, the D-backs, I think, are still playing better than maybe what most people expected entering the season. But I think at this point of the year, it's time to stop looking at the wild card race standings. Time to take our mind off the postseason and just start to recalibrate and look at this team, and just hope we could continue the development of our younger players, because I think some of the development, like the Luke Weavers and the Carson Kellys, like, of course, that's not going well. But guys like Dalton Varsho, he just seems to kind of hit a stalemate in his young career. So you want him to really improve. Some of these other young guys, how about all those guys acquired from the Zach Greinke trade, the Rojas's, the Seth Beers, the Corbin Martins, the JB Burskakises? We still want to see those guys improve and take a leap this year. So there's still a lot of things to watch for and be excited about the D-backs this season, because they have so much young talent. But if you're trying to hold on hope for the postseason, I think it might be time to give up hope, because when you look at the D-backs, next few weeks, it will be a fun time until the All-Star break, because all the D-backs opponents for the rest of July until the All-Star break, all NL West opponents, they literally play the Rockies, then the Giants, then the Rockies, then the Giants, then the Padres to end it before the All-Star break. So it's going to be a huge test for the D-backs. Like, if they get back in the wild card race, it's going to happen over the next 3 weeks as they face all division opponents. But I'm no longer looking at the wild card race. I'm moving ahead to the future. I'm looking ahead to the young D-backs that we have on our roster, and I'm looking ahead to development. And I'm also probably looking ahead to the trade deadline, because I'm sure the D-backs will be unloading some contracts once we get to the trade deadline. Now, we're going to be talking about who should replacing the Zach Davies of the world in the rotation, because the D-backs have essentially two spots in the rotation. So I want to talk about What's the best game plan for the D-backs to fill those rotation spots? Should they go young? Should they go with the veterans? That's what we're going to discuss next. So they're going to be on the lookout and they're going to be recruiting pitchers for their rotation, just like you should be using LinkedIn Jobs to recruit people for your business. Because as the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to hire and interview and hire. I don't know if I've already said that. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right. Let's get back into the podcast and let's discuss what the D-backs should do with the rotation because, of course, Humberto Castellanos has been on the 60-day injured list for a minute now, and the D-backs recently placed Zach Davies on the injured list the 15 days. So what should the D-backs now do with their rotation? It seems like Dallas Keuchel might have a spot in that rotation potentially secured going forward. He looked fine in his debut for the D-backs on the season, but I don't think he was great. Like I said, he was just fine for his first start back in the big leagues after a minute. He was just fine. But considering what Dallas Keuchel's looked like the last 2 years, I'm not really buying the Dallas Keuchel stock. So what should the D-backs do in a rotation? They have pretty much three game plans that they could go with. They could stick with the veteran arms, go with the Dallas Keuchels and the Luke Weavers of the world, guys with more experience, guys who've really had, guys with experience probably is the best way to describe it. Dallas Keuchel is, of course, a veteran guy who's pitched under Brent Strom, a guy who's a former Cy Young Award winner. And then Luke Weaver, I mean, he's only 28 years old, but he's been on the big league level since like 2017, 2018, making a whole bunch of starts. Of course, he's always injured, but he's got a lot of big league time under his belt, and he's basically hasn't been a minor league pitcher for 5 or 6 years now. So I'm definitely calling Luke Weaver a veteran. The second option the D-backs can go with, it just go with one of those young arms that seem to bounce back between AAA and the major league level. I'm talking about the Corbin Martins, the Tyler Gilberts, and the Taylor Widers because those guys also have major league experience, but they're still kind of unknowns. The Corbin Martins has got the strikeout stuff, but he hasn't really been able to put it together on either level. Tyler Gilbert, he's shown flashes at times. We've seen the no-hitter. He's more of a ground ball pitcher, but so far this year, he hasn't been good as a starter for the D-backs. And Taylor Widener, I thought it looked fine to start the season last year for the D-backs, those first few starts of the year before he got injured. And ever since he's come back from injury last year, he just hasn't looked the same, and he hasn't looked that good this year. But that is option number two for the D-backs. Go with one of those quad A guys that seem to bounce back and forth between AAA and the major league level. Then option number three for the D-backs is just go with someone entirely new that you haven't seen yet. Someone from the minor leagues like a Drew Jameson or a Ryan Nelson, who we talked about earlier. Both guys, 24 years old. Both guys kind of struggling on the minor league level this year, but still, if you go to MLB.com, two of the top five D-backs prospects in the organization. Both guys are 24, like I said, so they should be ready for the major league level. Both guys with the kind of profile and stuff that you would like as a rotation member. Both can be strikeout artists. Both guys can touch triple digits, so they got a lot of stuff to be excited about. So what should the D-backs do? What is the best course of action for their rotation? Well, if you ask me, I'm probably doing a combination of number two and number three just because they're those quad A guys, I still have so many question marks about them. And if I had to pick one of them, I'm probably going with Corby Martin because he seems to have the highest upside of the Gilberts and the Taylor Widers because Gilbert, he just someone who he might have impressed. Gilbert probably has impressed the most of all those quad A guys, but I just don't like his pitching profile as much. I don't like sinker ball pitchers, like I've always mentioned. I don't like ground ball pitchers. I want my pitcher to be a power guy, can hit mid to upper 90s with the fastball or the hard breaking stuff. I don't want to see the change up sinker ball guy where it's all high 80s with not a lot of variations in the speed, and you're just trying to pitch the contact and pitch and get ground balls. Like that's effective for some guys, but I just don't think that's a sustainable model, and I don't think those guys could be frontline rotation guys in your playoff rotation. So Tyler Gilbert, as much as I like him, and we are grateful for the no hitter against the San Diego Padres, I'm probably not giving him this opportunity. Taylor Widener, like his stuff, he's got the kind of stuff I would want. He could hit the mid 90s, but he just seems to not be as effective ever since coming back from injury last year. Like I don't know what's happened to Taylor Widener. Maybe he isn't as good as I once thought. So I'm going to give it to Corbin Martin because I like his stuff the most. I like his fastball velocity. I think he can strike out guys. He does have command issues. He doesn't mind putting guys on bases, but Corbin Martin is the perfect guy when you're talking about feast or famine because it feels like he could go out there 5 innings, 2 earned runs, and 11 strikeouts, or he could go out there 4 innings, 6 earned runs. He's kind of like the Robbie Ray of all these young pitchers. He kind of feels like a 3 true outcome guy, and if we could get him to maybe just 2 of the outcomes, maybe that could work out better for Corbin Martin. Of course, acquired in that Zach Greinke trade, maybe considered the best pitcher in that deal, arguable with JB Briscockis. So I think I would give Corbin Martin a shot in this rotation as one of the guys in this rotation to be given a shot because I think there's 2 spots open in this rotation, that number 4 and number 5 spot, because to me, Dallas Keuchel, I'm just not a big Dallas Keuchel guy. So even though Torey Lovullo seems to be set on him having, at least a few more opportunities in this rotation, I'm just not in on Dallas Keuchel. I wasn't in on bringing him into this rotation to begin with. I know a lot of D-backs fans were like, go out there and get Dallas Keuchel. And I'm like, why? He's like mid-30s. He hasn't been good in like a few years. Like I'd rather just go with a unproven young guy who might put up the same stat line, who might not be effective either, but at least I could talk myself into theoretical potential with the young guy. With Dallas Keuchel, I know what he is at this point of his career, so I'm out on Dallas Keuchel. Of course, I'm out on Luke Weaver. I mean, Luke Weaver just seems to be lost every time he makes a start in the rotation. Luke Weaver just seems to have no confidence in himself, and I have no confidence in Luke Weaver when he's out there on the mound. So I'm off both Luke Weaver and Dallas Keuchel, but if I had to pick someone to pair with Corbin Martin in that rotation, I'm probably going to go with option number 3 with someone entirely new, one of the Drew Jamisons or Ryan Nelsons, just because I want to see what those guys look like. Those guys are in their mid-20s. Those guys have the kind of they have the stuff that we don't have on this D-backs rotation. Like, as much as I love the Zach Gallons of the world, like, he's not out there throwing 98, 99 miles an hour. Like, Zach Gallen's a phenomenal starter. I think Zach Gallen is an ace, but does he have that DeGrom level stuff? No. And I'm not sure Drew Jameson or Ryan Nelson have that, DeGrom level stuff, but they do have stuff that's different from Zach Allen. They do got the heat that we don't have in this rotation. They got some hard breaking stuff. It's kind of like, the Luis Frias profile, who he just comes in, he can throw 100 miles an hour. He can throw nasty breaking pitches. He just doesn't know where the pitches are going to go. He doesn't know how to command his pitches. And the same might be said for these 2 young guys that I want to see get a spot in the rotation. But guess what? I don't really care about that. If those guys can throw triple digits, if they can bring new life to this rotation, bring some juice, and just be young, because I don't want to see Dallas Keuchel and I don't want to see Luke Weaver, even though Luke Weaver's still young. I want to see 2 young guys who I haven't seen before that I could just talk myself into as to potentially being good, because I've seen enough D-backs pitchers when it comes to the Luke Weavers and Dallas Keuchels, and I just know they're not the guys, okay? Those are not those guys, pal, all right? Those are pitchers who I don't want to see in this rotation any longer. I want to see some new blood. I want to see guys I haven't seen before. So let's get a Corbin Martin, and then let's get a Ryan Nelson or a Drew Jameson in this rotation, because I think it's time for them to step up and finally get in this D-backs rotation, because they've been in the minor leagues, I think, long enough.